You'll need a
What's up, y'all?
to win this one.
It's Otaku Tavern back at you with another video.
I am the Phoenix. Behold,
Hope everybody's doing well today, tonight. If you like the type of content that I create, make sure you like, subscribe, click the bell notification so that you do not miss a video. And let's get into this. So, what I want to talk about tonight is holding your own world in silence.
Once an X-Man,
and
always an X-Man.
30 seconds before you attack. Get ready.
this is something I have seen
Ooh, boy, you're giving off some real bad mojo, home.
a lot of people, you know, have to deal with. It's very hard to deal with. So, yeah, we're gonna get into this. Anyway,
Battle starts in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
so you're probably wondering exactly what I mean, but I'm gonna go ahead and tell you this now. This video is for men and women both. And you know, being alone in your world in silence, it's a very brutal thing to have to deal with. Now, I will say, if you're an Access man, you probably are gonna understand probably what I'm talking about more than some others. But
stay close and we'll be done in no time.
what I mean is, this can be with a family member, this can be with a friend, it can be with a spouse, it can be, you know, siblings, whatever, right? And, you know, it knows no bounds, right? You know, it can be, or it can just be, you know, wanting to have those good people in your life, right? And, you know, however, though, when it comes to things like, say your issues, say you've got mental health issues that you need to kind of talk about and stuff like that, right? You know, these people don't want to hear you out. You know, this is not just about mental health struggles either. This can be about, you know, something bad that happened to you. It can be about, you know, hobbies. It can be about a whole slew of things, you know, and the thing with it is, you know, when you're alone and like your world like full of just silence, it really lets you know who's really there. And I'll say it again, you know, when you're in your own world of silence, it lets you know who's really there. And you know, what I mean by this is, say, you know, you're trying to speak with your mother about things, and, you know, she's just preoccupied, she don't really listen, you know, it's like, you know, obviously, if a mother's doing this, they're not there, right? And you know, it's brutal to have to deal with that, because, you know, it's like it lets you know, hey, I really am alone. You know, that assumption, it truly becomes a reality, because, you know, at first you'll kind of assume, you know, like it'll start seeming you are, and you're like, well, maybe I am, you know. But here's the thing, that maybe disappears. It turns into I am alone. And I'm obviously talking about humans, by the way. I'm not talking about, like, God, so to say. I mean, obviously God will always be there for you. He's the only one that will. But, like, you know, as far as, like, you know, being in your own world of silence, being in your own world of silence, you know, a very harsh reality that, you know, a lot of men and women have to face. And, it's a very brutal one, too, because it's, very, very painful to have to deal with this. It's also, like, how do I say this? It feels very, like, paralyzing, so to speak, because, you know, you're sitting here, you're trying to obviously tell whatever it is you want to tell, right? But it's like, you know,
Jean Grey, but I'm also so much more.
No matter what you do, though, you will be alone. And what I mean by this is not to discourage anybody, but it is just the blunt reality of this. Like, it's like, basically, you know, you're gonna be
Reborn again. Good times.
sitting here, you know, wondering, you know, say you've been dealing with this for, I don't know, 20 years, right? And, you know, it starts to get unbearable, obviously. And, dang, it starts to become unbearable, and the thing about it, too, is, like, you know,
Good times.
you're obviously, like, alone in this, and that's what really sucks, because
Almost there. Don't turn back now.
when you're, like, alone, sorry, I was trying to share that in my Discord server, you know, when you're, like, alone and such, you know, like, that right there, I'm gonna tell you now, that's some brutal stuff to have to deal with, because, you know, if you're, like, alone in your head, basically, you know, you feel like you're, like, going crazy and just all this other stuff, right? You know, and in a sense, you know,
It's clobbering time!
your brain kind of rewires itself, and, like, you know, you stop trying. You stop, you know, like, say, you know, if you have a mom and you're trying to talk to her about, say, about your depression, right? Or
Only 60 seconds left.
or you're trying to tell her something, oh, I got this, and this, you know, I'm really happy about it, and it's like they just really show they don't really care, right? Dang. You know, and they show they don't really care, obviously, but, like, you know, it just goes to show that, you know, not only will your mind rewire itself, but at the same time, you're done, bro. Like, you know, you don't really feel like, you know, like I said, if it's your mother, you know, you don't really feel like talking no more to her. You don't, or say it's your dad, you know, you don't feel like talking to him anymore, right? And, you know, the same could be said in relationships, friendships.
Spider-Man!
Even coworkers, right? Even coworkers, this can be a thing with, and it's like, you know, when you see the evidence of who is really there for you, like in your time of need, or, you know, just kind of chill and chat or whatever, you know, like you start to learn that, you know, if nobody's really there for you, essentially you kind of start to shut down. And what I mean by that is you basically kind of give up on certain things, is kind of what I'm talking about. Like, I've known many of people to do this. I've seen people do this, and you know, it's very brutal. But like, you know, say you put it this way. So say you like eating chicken with rice, and then you like to put soy sauce on the chicken and rice, right? And say, you know, you want to talk about like how passionate you are about this specific dish.
It's nice to take a break.
And, you know, say you're talking with a friend or a spouse or just a family member, right? Okay, if they honestly don't, you know, if they're not listening,
and it kind of sucks.
then, you know, that goes to show who's really there. You know, there's a song by Linkin Park, and
The battle starts in 5.
it really reminds me
3, 2,
of,
1.
you know, the song. The song reminds me of exactly, you know, what I'm talking about, because, you know, the song is very true, because, you know, in the song, you know, there's a part where Chester's like, he says, you know, tried to give you warning, but everyone ignores me. Okay, so essentially right now he is trying to say, hey, you know, I'm trying to share this, and why is this person messaging me? I'm trying to share this, they're like, and, you know, when they don't sit here and then be like, hey, you know, well, what's wrong? Or, oh, you know, why do you like that dish? Or whatever it is. It doesn't really matter if it's about, like, you know, a mental health issue, whether it's a hobby, whether it's something you got going on, or whatever it is, right? And, you know, it's like, you know, it's very, it's a very brutal reality to have to deal with, because, you know, when you're dealing with this, you know, it's just really, really brutal, like, but anyway, you know, and then they're like, and then the band's like, you know, told you everything loud and clear, you know, and then he goes, but nobody's listening. Called to you so clearly, but you don't want to hear me. Told you everything, but nobody's listening. Okay, so, you know, this is a, this is very, this song individual here, this is the classic, person who is trapped within their own mind. They don't, they obviously do not have, like, a person to speak with, so to say, about whatever is going on, whether it's a hobby or just something happened, say something happened at work, or, you know, say you're just going through some stuff, or it could be just about that simple dish that I just mentioned, right? It could be just about a simple chicken and rice and soy sauce dish. You know, pretty good dish, you know, if I say so myself, but, you know, we are more connected now than ever, actually, but the thing is we are more lonelier than ever. And what I mean is, everything is accessible, but nobody cares, right? And, you know, that's the whole problem. Nobody cares. That is the entire problem. Like, you know, if suddenly overnight, you know, everybody just started caring, you would see outstanding results, man. You would see outstanding results of change. You would see a lot of people become more joyful. They would be more happy. And, you know, when you're dealing with this stuff, you know, it makes it a lot harder to, you know, like keep the fruits of the spirit, so to say, you know, like joyness, peace, love, you know, all that. It's very hard to keep that when you are constantly reminded you're alone. And when like I said, I'm not talking about alone as in for God. I'm talking about alone as in like, you know, human beings, or family, friends, spouse, all of it as a whole, really, you know, like, you know, and, you know, it's very hard to keep that. And, you know, it's an everyday struggle, it's an everyday fight to... Crap. Sorry, this match is getting intense. Anyway, but it's like, you know, it's very difficult to have to, you know, suffer in silence. It's basically like you're suffering in silence, right? You know, and I'm gonna tell you now, suffering in silence is very bad on the mental health. And here's the thing, it's going to affect your physical health, because your mental health will eventually affect your physical health. I'll say that again. Your mental health will eventually affect your physical health. So, you know, and when you've got like all this other stuff on top of it, say you got autism, say you got depression, anxiety or PTSD, you know, some type of trauma or something. This, when you have this done to you, it's a billion times worse than if you didn't have all those things. And because, you know, these people take it more harshly, they take it more serious. They have a need or a longing, and no matter what they do, it just never happens, right? Like, you know, and a prime example of this is like, you know, say like an access man, you know, is like, say he wants like a woman, or he wants a good friend group. Bro, look, I'm gonna be honest with you. That's right there is the hardest thing to have to like endure, because as an access man, you know, you
Feel the wrath of the goddess!
You've tried. You've done everything you could. You know, you hear all this alpha male crap.
Fantastic!
They say, oh, you know, just level up, bro. Just take a shower, bro. Or, you know, all this stuff. And it's like, this... You don't think these people do that? Like, honestly, do you think these people don't do that? I mean, of course they do that. You know, here's the thing. An access man wearing Old Spice is not going to have the same effect as a rich guy wearing Old Spice, right? It's not going to have the same effect. You know, you see this stuff on all these commercials. And it's severely false advertisement, because it's like, you know, they kind of try to paint this picture to sell their product. Axe did this, you know, back in the day, Tag did this back in the day, Old Spice does it, you know, all these kinds of companies,
I have mutant powers.
and it's like there's a lot of others. Someone took my character, bro.
You picked the right gal for the job, sugar.
Anyway, so it's like, you know, no, that does not play a part on it, you know. If you do not have, you know, everything else to go with it, it's meaningless, bro. It's not going to happen. And, you know, here's the thing. When you're in your own world, you're having to hold your own world in silence. You know, that's something you honestly can't control. You can't control nobody will have nothing to do with you for just stupid reasons. You can't...
Get ready. Safety first.
You can't... There's nothing you can do, right?
Keep your hands where I can see them.
And...
I wouldn't touch you if my life depended on it, Castle.
It's
Smart
just...
choice, doll. You couldn't handle seeing what I've lived through.
Ancient memories I'm worried about absorbing, sugar. It's your twisted ethics. The battle starts.
I don't know, it's brutal. It's just brutal, y'all. Like,
One.
and, you know, another thing, too, is like,
Help get that vehicle to
say you, crap, I have to get in close to this. Yeah, say you, can't get out of here. But like, say, you know, you do everything you can do. It's like, you know, finding a friend group now is more harder than ever. I'm gonna tell you that now. That is almost dang near impossible. Dang near impossible to try to find a friend group because, you know, nobody, you can't really... You can't really solve a problem if you don't care, right? You just can't. And, you know, that's the whole freaking problem, is if we could solve this problem of nobody caring, we would actually have a higher chance of getting somewhere, right? Like, and, you know, it's just... Like, bro, like, I mean, it's brutal to have to deal with that, you know, and like I said, you know, if you're like an Access man, you know, you've done everything you possibly can do, honestly, to get these things, and you're still left alone holding your own world in silence, bro. Like, you're still having to hold it in. You're still, because there's no one to share it with, you know. Say you come home from work, right? There's nobody to ask you, oh, hey, how was work? There's nobody to vent to about, oh, so how somebody did this at work and it really pissed you off. There's nobody to vent to about this, right? Like, if you're an Access man, you know, more than likely, and even if you ain't an Access man, you could be a woman who just simply just doesn't have anybody, right? Like, the same thing applies. You know, you may not have anybody to kind of just share the dinner table with and just kind of talk and cut loose and relax and, you know, talk about issues, and you probably don't have that, right? And you know, that's brutal. And it's like, you know, got him. Okay. But yeah, you know, it's like you can't really win for freaking lose, because you do everything you can, right? You try and you try again, and then you try again, and then, you know, you take these advice from these stinking red pillars, these stinking blue pillars that sold you the fake American dream, and, you know, you come out to find, and brutally, the hard way, that this is all BS. It's meaningless. And not only is it BS and meaningless, but it also always, 100% without fail, lets you down. It just fails every time. And, you know, it's like, you know, I'm for thinking rationally. You know, God will never, God will listen. I'll tell you that now. He will listen. But obviously, we're not talking about the God at this second. We're kind of talking about like a human being, you know, because that's the thing. See, a lot of Christians will try to tell you, oh, if you got God, you don't need anything at all. Okay, so are you telling me if I have God, I don't need food? Are you telling me if I have God, I don't have to shower or like use the bathroom or I don't have to do none of that? Like, come on, dude, that's common sense, bro. Like, I mean, yeah, obviously you've got to do all those things. God made it that way, and it's like same thing with human connection. They'll try to tell you, oh, well, you know, you don't really need it because you got God, and it's like, you know, are you crazy? Because, you know, in the Bible, human connection is talked about pretty much throughout the whole book, right? You know, humans need human connection, right? That's just what they freaking need. And, you know, and their connections are also so meaningless too. They're so casual, transactional, and that's why it doesn't bother them, because they are part of the freaking problem. And, you know, here you are, you're left alone in silence, okay? And it's like, you know, you're having to hold in all your problems, your passions, your needs, wants, desires, you know, you're having to hold in everything, you know, no matter what it is. And, you know, that is a very brutal, that is a very brutal way to live. You know, in a sense, you know, you're pretty much just kind of existing at this point. You're not truly living. Like, you know, it keeps you, like, you know, from kind of living. And, you know, that's also going to affect your mental health even greater. So,
You'll need a top-notch team.
you know, I mean, it's just very brutal, right? And it's just, I feel like, you know, that, you know, if you was to tell these people these things, you would get met with half-butt answers. You would get met with heartless answers. I know, I've done it. I've been there, done it.
30 seconds before you attack.
And it's like, you know,
It's so strange to be back.
it's
After all I've
just,
seen out there.
it's super brutal. And, you know, I would honestly not wish this on anybody, because
I hear you haven't been lonely with a certain gala attendee.
like another thing too,
The battle starts in 5,
if you're having to just
3, 2, 1.
hold your own world,
Area. Got it?
like in silence,
My people look forward to the afterlife.
you know, that right there is brutal. And that is not a good feeling at all. That is not a good feeling at all, to have to deal with this, regardless of who it is that you're having to do this with. A lot of people actually have to, you know, a lot of people do this with their family, right? Like, and it's, you know, it's like,
I've come back from way worse.
that they will never know, these people, nobody's interested in knowing the full story about you. They look at you and that's all they care about. That's it. It's your appearance. You know, if it does not match what they deem as, you know, acceptable, that's it, bro. You are left in silence 100%. And, you know,
Please give me a challenge.
it's basically, it's kind of like this. Say you've been like changing the channel on a radio
That vehicle to its destination.
for 20 years straight, right? And you still cannot find that certain frequency
Never liked
to listen to, right? It's very much like that. Like, you do everything you possibly can in your power, and it still is not good enough. And
Arrow cuts through the air.
that's what these people don't realize. A lot of people, you know, it's just not good enough what you're doing. And, you can do everything right and still everything can go wrong. That's what people don't understand. And I'll say it again. You can do everything right and everything still go horribly wrong. And, you know, I've had this happen many a times in my life. You know, I've seen it happen to other people many a times. I've witnessed it many a times. And, you know, it's brutal every time, bro. Like, it's not, it doesn't get any less brutal seeing this more and more and more. As a matter of fact, it gets kind of more brutal the more you see it, like, because you realize that this is a lot of people's reality. And, you know, that is a horrible reality to have. But here's the thing. At least you're not lying to yourself, because when you can accept this, you know, you
Reborn again. Good times.
You acknowledge your reality. You're acknowledging what your reality truly is. And, you know, a lot of people want to, you know, tell you, oh, that's not, they want to gaslight you and say, oh, well, that's not your reality. That's just, you know, your mental health talking. That's just such and such talking, your mind playing tricks on you or whatever. It's like, you know, it goes back to the denying everything you've been through tactic that a lot of these people do. And it's like, you know, I've talked about this on my channel before, and I plan on talking about it again pretty soon. And it's like, you know, that right there is brutal, like, to have to deal with that. And it's like, you know, I'll tell you another thing. So, take like this YouTube channel, right? It doesn't get a lot of views. But take this YouTube channel, right? You know, there's not really a whole lot of people watching this. And, you know, even on videos with 0 views, bro, like, it just goes to show, you know, like, say when you start a YouTube channel and you're getting 0 views, right? You know, you're trying to build your world, you know, to, you know, and stuff like this, like, and, you know, you're thinking about, like, the pacing, the audience retention, you know, certain topics to talk about, and it's like, you know, you end up holding a lot of this stuff in alone because it's kind of a specialized kind of feeling of loneliness. And, you know, when you're having to hold your own world in silence, in your mind, in your heart, in your body, period, it's rough. And that also plays into the protective silence, because now you stop trying because you see that it's pointless. You see that it's hopeless, because nothing is going to change. You know, your mom that doesn't care about what happened at work today, it's irrelevant. It's not going to change. You know, you can wish it would change all you like, but it's not going to. I hate to say that, but, you know, and it's like, you know, it's just, it's just, you know, it's brutal. And, you know, even like, even people that have been through natural disasters, bro, like, these people are left all alone. They're all alone. They've lost everything. People aren't helping them because of who they are. They don't fit the criteria to be helped. I've witnessed this personally. I've been through this personally. So it's like, you know, here's the thing though, the only one helping you is God. So say some stuck-up person comes by and hands you $200, right? Don't thank them, because it's not really them that's giving it to you. If you've been praying for something like that, it was God that gave it to you. It was God that had made that person give it to you. That's what it boils down to. And, you know, the glory goes back to God. If it wasn't for him, these people would not have done it. They wouldn't have felt the need, oh, well, I better do this to kind of make myself kind of look favorable to God, you know, and it's like, you know, it's a very slippery slope, right? It's a very slippery slope, but I've been through it, right? I've been through this, and it was brutal. It was very brutal, and I pray that I never have to go through it again, and I really pray for the people who do have to go through it, you know, who have already been through it again. You know, like these people in Michigan, you know, that went through one. Like, it's bad. And it's like, you know, I hope that, you know, the right people who don't barely have anything or any money, I hope they're the ones who get it. But I'll be honest, I doubt it. Because it's always the ones with money who get it. And, you know, think about it this way. So say when you go to one of these firework tents, right? Or, you know, there's some kind of drawing of something. Why is it always like a middle class or someone who has money that wins it? I'll tell you why. Because what they do is they search the bucket. That's what they do. They take out all the names. They look up people. I guarantee you they do this. Or if they see it's someone that, oh, that person, I don't know them, so I'm going to draw again. I honestly would not doubt this because I've actually heard a lot of people actually say that's what they think is going on. And you know, it doesn't really, crap, I missed. It doesn't really surprise me if that's what they actually are doing. But like the thing with,
Phoenix, you get burned.
you know, like, you know, the thing with the radio that I mentioned is like, you know, you're trying to find this frequency. Say you've been trying for 20 years, you're trying to find this frequency of something to listen to, right? It's the same thing. You could be searching for a frequency for someone to listen to you, and you never find it, bro. Like you're a voice. It's like you're on the planet Mars yelling for help, but there's no one to help, right? Like that's honestly, I'm gonna say that. That's what it's like. And you know, you're on a planet with nobody else on it, yelling for help, but yet there's people on the planet, and it's even worse, bro. They still ain't helping, right? And you know, this is very brutal to have to endure. It's very brutal to have to go through, but these people will try to convince you, oh, that's not happening. Oh, that's all in your head. And it's like, you know, or they will try to gaslight you. They will try some sort of toxic, narcissistic tactic or something. And it's like, you know dang well, like what, you know your circumstance, right? You know, you're not oblivious to your circumstance. You're not, that's the thing I don't understand is, like these people, they think, oh, well, they must be oblivious to circumstance because they don't know what you're talking. It's like, you know, they don't know what they're talking about, but yet they've been through it, bro. Bro, what the heck do you even mean at this point? Because, you know, when you're having to carry the silence alone, you know, it's rough. And, you know, there's actually people out there that have a phobia of silence. Could you imagine how bad it is for people like that? Like people who have a phobia of like silence, and they're forced, bro. They're forced to have to endure silence. They're forced to have to keep everything in. They're forced to do everything like by themselves. That, you know, if you're like, say you're an Access man, you know, it's like you can spectate, but you can't participate. And I'll say it again, a lot of times you can spectate, but you cannot participate. And I've personally experienced this. I experience this all the time. You know, I don't really care what people think of me, obviously, but, you know, I have experienced this one too many times. I've seen people experience this one too many times, and I've witnessed this happen way too many times. So yeah, I mean, you know, but the thing is, you know, praise God that we have a God that'll listen to us, at least, even if human beings don't. So, but yeah, I just kind of wanted to kind of get on here and kind of just rant about that a little bit, you know, because I've seen this happen so many times, and you know, I really feel sorry for these people. You know, some of the people I watch on YouTube are like this. They're having to hold on to their own world in silence. You know, nobody to share it with, nobody that'll care to hear about it. Nothing. They don't have nothing, bro. And it's like, yeah, it's brutal. So anyway, hope you liked the video. Like and subscribe if you're new. If you like the type of content I create, the games we play, all that. And I will see you all next time. Peace.